This is kind of like part one of a two-part video where in part two I just ramble about everything. And I think I'm going to name the video Let's Talk About Everything, where I'm just talking about anything that pops into my head, including, YouTube, making videos, how much I make, what I do all day, my tool shed, which is like a man cave, just anything. I'm just kind of going from subject to subject, talking about my favorite video creators, just anything. But this one is more specific, where a friend of mine is struggling with the pool game, and nothing they seem to be trying is working. So if that's your case, and I'm guessing it's a lot of people's cases, answer the man's question. Tom, without seeing you play, I'm guessing, and the reason I'm guessing is because there's a real good chance it's your stroke. And amateur players that are struggling with their pool games, and there's millions of them, they all have a similar flaw. And it's a stroke. People underestimate the amount of work and the amount of importance of a straight stroke. It's unnatural, I can tell you that. It's not going to feel natural when you first actually utilize a straight stroke. You have to train your muscles to do it, and do it every time and make it a habit. And a lot of people, they see these young pool players, and they automatically assume that kid has just natural talent. And I don't believe that's it, unless you want to call a straight stroke natural talent. If someone drilled it through their head, or they just realized nothing else they're going to do with their pool game is going to matter if their stroke is flawed. So what happens when people start missing balls is they start spinning the cue ball, which is causing deflection, which is compensating for that flawed stroke. So just forget everything else, forget everything, and just work on that stroke, and work on it a lot, and get it straight. And you'll know it when it's straight. And then take that and turn it into a habit. And it's going to take work, and it's not going to be easy. But that is the number one most important, most vital issue in pool, is having a straight stroke. You cannot consistently be a great player without a great stroke, as straight as can be. And in the old days, I actually watched Mike Massey do this. And Eddie Taylor used to do it too, and they're from the East Tennessee region. And all their proteges and people who went out on the road with them used to do it too. And they used to set up a Coke bottle, actually on the pool table. And when they're in downtime and they're waiting on the game ready, they would stroke through that cue bottle all the way to the end of the bottle, and then come back all the way out without touching the sides or the rim of the Coke bottle. And that's how they did it. There's other ways to do it now. It is 2021. They understood that their next meal depended on a perfectly straight stroke. The best stroke in pool today, the straightest that I've seen, um, and I'm sure there's probably other people, is Josh Filler from Europe. That guy has an incredibly straight stroke, and it's flawless. And it's not just as you're stroking through the cue ball, but before you hit the cue ball and after you hit the cue ball, it has to be flawless. So, these guys, you don't just work on it to develop it, you work on it to keep it consistent. And you have to maintain it too. And they know that. And they do it, they maintain their stroke with their actual pool game so they can play and maintain that stroke. And they're always analyzing every ball they hit while they're playing it. It was just take your game off table. And you have to work on your pre-shot ritual and getting down on the line of aim. But getting down on the line of aim is useless if your stroke is flawed. You're not going to be able to stroke through that line of aim. That's it. That's what a lot of you guys really, really need to take more serious and work on. If you get in a position to be friends, actually make friends with a top shelf pro pool player. And you even get to go out on a couple of trips to tournaments and hang out with the person. You'll see how much emphasis they put on their stroke. Because, they're not, you can't tune in to YouTube and watch them, maintaining their stroke. You go back to a motel room and have a beer, and you'll see it, man. You'll see them thinking about it, talking about it, and trying to maintain it. But we don't, as mere mortals of, being pool fans, we don't get to see what goes on behind the scenes. And it's not all partying, it's not all freedom, and it's not all girls, and, it's not what you think it is. These guys work hard on their pool games. Yeah, if you're going to watch anybody play pool and you're trying to emulate a great player, I would tell anyone in the pool world today, from young to old, is watch Josh Filler, and not just watch him play pool, but watch every single thing he's doing on and around the pool table, except his attitude. His demeanor needs work, but as far as what he's doing in his pre-shot ritual, how he's getting down on the ball, and how his shoulder is, how his elbow is, how he's lined up, what he's doing. He's almost like a robot, to where it's like you couldn't program a machine to do it any better than what he's doing. I would tell you also not to emulate Shane Van Boening. Has his own double pump style and stroke, and his, Shane's different. He does it despite his style. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I admire the hell out of him, and I think he's great. But he's not. Emulating him will screw up your pool game. Because it's just too unique for anyone else to copy. It's just his way, and he does it his way, and he developed a very, very straight stroke, despite being double pumped and pausing twice on the backswing, and then aligning himself during the backswing, aligning his right arm and elbow during the stroke. You don't want to do that. Jason, Shaw, and Josh, both of them, I think Josh has a straighter stroke than Jason, but Jason's pretty damn close too. In the alignment video, we talked about how a lot of the greatest players in the world had the worst alignments in the world. But despite all that, they developed a very straight stroke, and this is how they got great. There is no great pool player with a flawed stroke. There's just not. Some guys are a little bit straighter than others, but they're the guys that are winning more consistently than others. It's true, guys. You have to work on your stroke if you want to be a great pool player. So, how do you do that? Well, you can use your kitchen table. I use a ping pong table because it has lines on it already. So I can practice my stroke with the actual lines that are embedded in the ping pong table. And it's just roughly the same height as a pool table. But you can use your desk or whatever whatever flat surface you want to use, as long as it's roughly the same height as a pool table. And you can put like masking tape down. Just make sure the line of the masking tape is as straight as it could possibly be. And if you have like a laser tape measure, it'll come in handy. That'll tell you when that line's as straight as it can get. And just, go through your pre-shot ritual while you're practicing your stroke, because you don't want to lose that as a habit. And you should do it until your back hurts. And just keep getting up and down on the line of aim, which would be that piece of tape, and keep that stroke along that line of aim, stopping at the end of the stroke and pulling back and stopping at the beginning of the stroke, just so you don't create any bad habits. And it's probably going to get boring, but it's not all fun and games. It takes a little bit of work. In fact, it takes a lot of work. And what most amateur pool players do and wonder why they never get any better is they just go out and play. And if you have all these bad habits in your games and you're just going out and playing and playing and playing and playing, you're just instilling bad habits into your game. And you have to play a lot to get great at pool. I mean, you have to play a lot. Too much, if you ask me. But you have to play while you're doing it right, not while you're doing it wrong. You understand? Otherwise, you're just instilling muscle memories and bad habits that are hurting you. And also, while you're going about working on your stroke, don't get in the habit of staring at your stroke. You don't want to go out and play pool competitively while focusing too much attention on your stroke. You need to be looking at the object on your people. So you can create bad habits while working on your stroke, and try hard not to do that. And with the Coke bottle technique, you don't have to look at your stroke. You can tell that it's hitting the Coke bottle. So you can feel it, so that will help you not focus too much attention on your stroke. You focus attention on the object.